Is it clear? How many people are clear about whatever has been told? Because this is important. Okay, let us see. Now let us consider, after all, this whole beam. Originally we started that it is subjected to pure bending moment. So now I am taking a section over here. I know my neutral axis now is here. I don't know its location, by the way. I know there is somewhere neutral axis x in between top and bottom surface, but I have not yet told you where it is. Huh? Okay. But then it undergoes no extension or contraction. So just now, what is this? Now, just now we saw strain varies linearly through the thickness, and then if you consider this is your 1 by rho, this is 1 by rho. So then this is also constant, so it varies. Stress also varies linearly through the thickness. Stress also is varying linearly. This also. So stress varies linearly means what? It varies like this, and then at the bottom it will be varying like this. So stress variation will be something I can draw here again. It will be like this, and then bottom just the reverse compression. Is it okay? So this is the stress sigma x as a function of z variation. This is the variation of sigma x as a function of z. So let me now consider, I will draw a little deeper beam just for clarity. And most of you have written that I am so slow that I make you sleep in the class. Huh? I don't know, but my voice is very loud, you can't sleep. Okay. So, now let me consider a fiber at a distance z of thickness dz. Very important. So, this is the diagram you now see. I have now, this is the depth. I am considering now a fiber at a distance z, which we considered earlier also while considering strains. Now, I am considering another fiber at a distance z plus dz. Okay, so thickness is here dz. What is the width of this fiber? Sorry, width of this beam is b. B is the total area is how much? Total area on which this means b times dz. Okay, so area dA is b. If the b is the width times dz. And what is the stress that is acting here? Let us assume that is. So this is sigma x that we have seen. So at this point, I am taking a What is the value of at a distance z? The sigma x is like this. Is it okay? Now let me draw a force diagram. This one at this point you have here df. How, from where you are getting df? Df will be given by a small force F is given by stress multiplied by dA. Stress is acting on a smaller area dz multiplied by b. B is the width of the beam. Is it okay? So, total area is b times dz. So, I am just writing dA multiplied by stress is a small force df. df. Is it okay? So, this is df force at this distance z. Now, this force df is changing from top to bottom. It is not remaining constant because sigma x is changing linearly. It changes from top to bottom. So, let me try to do some jugglery. So, what is F? Total force F. If I take df, integrate it over the entire from h by 2, sorry, no, I will not say h by 2 because the, in fact, location of my neutral axis is not yet fixed. So, whatever I told you h by 2 originally just, a conjecture. Okay. So, let me say I df, I integrate over the entire area. So, this is over entire area which is sigma x into b into dz. Is it okay? Huh. So, if you take this F, F is the net force on the cross section. Now, in the original problem, is there any net force on the cross section? Which problem we started? We said the cross section is subjected to only a bending moment. Is there any force acting along the axis? No. Okay. So, this will act provided there is some axial thrust. Okay. So, here in our case, but presently, but in this case, this sigma x into dA is 0. Is it okay? Yes, it has to be 0. There is no net force, net axial thrust acting on the cross section. We are integrating over the entire area from bottom to top. From minus h by, let us say, I should not say minus h by 2 to plus h by 2, but yes, from bottom to top. Another thing, now, let me take another product df multiplied by z. What is this quantity? df multiplied by z. Yes, here is df multiplied by z. What is this quantity? dm. small moment, huh? A moment acting. So this quantity is small. Therefore, what is m? Integral, sorry, this one. So integral df into z. And this, if you take integral over the entire area, then this will be the moment applied at the, and this moment is actually there. Bending moment applied at the cross section is equal to m. So this I have now related the external force to the internal force. Internal force is in the form of stresses. dF will be written in, so this one quantity will be equal to sigma x into dA into z, or better it is written as sigma x into z into dA. Yes. Hmm? Yes, please. Do you agree with this? So this is okay. Those who are awake. So can I write now that moment is given by, we have an expression now, integral sigma x z dA. Yes, please. Is it okay? Substitute. I think we have got some expression for sigma x, we have derived already. Huh? Can you, what is sigma x is equal to? So you have got two bracketed quantities. Now we have done the equilibrium, we have related, so external forces have been related to internal that is stresses over a cross section. By the way, this changes from cross section to cross section. This is a function of x. M is, but here in our case, m is constant, then only you can have a pure bending moment. M is not changing from cross section to cross section. Okay. So this is it okay? Now, substitute. What is sigma x given by, so integral sigma x, what was the sigma x? Yes, please. E into E into z by rho. E z by rho is sigma x, and multiplied by area. Area is b into dz. This is yes, no, this is one is, this is equal to 0. This integral must be 0. So now one we have got, and second integral we have got is e times z over rho times z B dz equal to 0. Other one is wrong? Huh? Oh, that is equal to m. This is equal to m. This is equal to m. Now, can we get something out of this? So, here we are getting from first relation. So, from the first, can you please get anything? So, here E and rho are constant. E and rho are constant. So, we can get here from the first one, that is z times, that is integral z times dA is 0 first. Second one is again let it be E and rho has to be there, they have to be there. So, E rho and then so E B rho integral z square dz equal to m. Now, does this mean anything? If you have an area multiplied by z, yes, so what does this? That my x axis is centroidal axis. This means is what? Area if you are taking multiplied by z, you are taking moment divided by again if you take area, so that will give you centroid. So, since this is 0, so this gives us that my x axis is passing through centroid of cross section. Now, please do this integral. So, this one is EB by rho z cube by 3. So, now from this one is I am very comfortable. Once I am now comfortable, yes, this is the centroidal. Now, I can comfortably say yes, this cross section is B and this distance is h by 2 and again this distance is h by 2 and this point is, so this if you this thing going through centroid of the cross section. So, now I can say yes, neutral axis, neutral plane is centroidal plane, that is coming from here. Is it okay? Now, here, so here now I can give my limits. Here I can give now h by 2 to plus h by 2, that is equal to m. Yes. So, what is that? How much is this? E B by rho h cube by how much? 12 equal to m. Or what is B h cube by 12 by the way? I. So, this is EI by rho equal to M. So, I have got one good relation, two I have got from here now. Yes. I think most of you are comfortable when this kind of derivations come. When there is any argument about symmetry, deformation, assumption, then you are lost. So this is simple. This is simple, provided you have done your arguments right. So we have got one that m by 1 by rho equal to m by ei. That means curvature. I have related curvature to moment, applied moment at the cross section and modulus of velocity and moment of inertia of the cross section, which is a geometrical. So, this is 1 by rho equal to m by ei. This is an important relation you have got now. The okay. So now life is not. Then what is rho was something else. Is there any relation with rho and sigma x or something? Was there any relation with rho? Yes, sigma x we have got one relation. Strain we have got one relation. Huh? Is it okay or not? Is there? Huh? So what is rho is also given by. Supposing I want to relate now, I want to find out. So I have got it's all right. 1 by rho equal to m by a. External moment, if I know, I can find out the curvature at that cross section. But that is not my aim. I want to find out what in a beam. I want to find out what is the stress produced. What is the stress sigma x produced? What is the strain produced? So, can I relate that please? Huh? mz by I. Huh? Yes, 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 very good. But where is that? Huh? How are you getting? Huh? 1 by rho is given by? But since, I will write since. What is the, you tell me? Sigma x by E, E, E z. This is correct? Okay. Since this we have already derived. Therefore, you put it. And therefore, this is a very important relation, that stress at any cross section sigma x, longitudinal stress, normal stress acting in x direction perpendicular to the plane. Which plane? Plane. What is the plane? X plane, of course, X plane, but it is lying in which it is in Z and Y, YZ plane. So sigma X there is given by mz by I, at any point. So what is the maximum value of sigma? Therefore, sigma X maximum Huh? Sigma x maximum, please. What is the maximum sigma x that we can get? Yes, z equal to h by 2. This is called, this is written as sometimes h by 2, people call it c, mc. By earl, and it can be plus or minus. So I will say plus minus h by 2. So you have got a good now. So if you have a beam, so we have done considerable amount of analytical work today, and that now we are in a position to find out sigma x, variation of sigma x through the depth of the beam. Depth, depth is known, and this one we have derived pure bending. So this one, this beam was so pure bending. So let us say that there is a beam and we apply external moment here M, external moment here M. It is in equilibrium. So at any cross section, if I take my element, that element also is subjected to only bending moment, no shear force, no axial force, pure bending. So this is pure bending. It is also called or pure flexure. Pure flexure. Instead of the word bending, we also called flexure of the beam. Bending of the beam or flexure of the beam, pure flexure. And we have got a nice formula which tells me that yes, stress distribution which is this stress distribution is given by at any distance is moment into z divided by moment of inertia. This is called flexure formula. This is called flexure formula. Let's take a problem. Now, if you have any question, any doubt. Now, incidentally, the derivation that I have given you, this was derived about 175 years ago by two gentlemen, Euler and Bernoulli. Okay, EULER, Euler and Bernoulli. So this is also called Euler-Bernoulli flexure formula. Euler-Bernoulli. Exact year I will have to see the literature, but it is Euler-Bernoulli, Euler-Bernoulli, Noulli, flexure formula. Bernoulli. So, we have learned Euler-Bernoulli flexure formula, and let us recapitulate, what are the basic assumptions. First of all, any beam problem is a three-dimensional problem in general. Now, we made it two-dimensional by first considering a specific geometry of the beam, that it has a plane of symmetry, vertical plane of symmetry in which plane? XZ plane. XZ plane divides the cross section into two halves. Then we also said that the loading is applied in XZ plane. Why? Why did we say that? We said that because if the loading is, let us say, it is little off XZ plane, then it will try to twist the beam, which we did not want to. Okay, so we wanted only flexure, we wanted only bending. Then during course of derivation, we have made so many simplifications. So if you have a plane of symmetry, and we said yes, the state of stress, we don't have to consider three-dimensional state of stress with 6 components of stresses and 6 components of strains. We can consider only a plane stress state. So beam is considered to be in a state of plane stress, provided the width B is small. Okay, width B should not be very large, and it should be free. And so this is, so we come to plane stress. Then we said, even after plane stress, during the course of when we tried to make use of the Hooke's law, there was a stress component sigma z, vertical stress, normal stress, and sigma x is the major stress that is acting. And we said, well, this is this stress component sigma z in general will be small compared to sigma x and other stresses that are there in the beam. And the reason I explained to you why it should be small. So normal, vertical normal stress is small. And why did we make this assumption? Because we simplified the Hooke's law. Otherwise, my Hooke's law would have been in a two-dimensional nature. I made it one-dimensional. I made it only, got rid of one term and it became one-dimensional. So let us now write down the basic assumptions on which Euler-Bernoulli formula has been derived, so that you remember it forever. So basic assumptions, these are very important. One by one. First thing is, all deformations are small. Loads are applied such a way, the loads are not very high, that the deflections, deformations, the movement of particles, they are not very large. Okay? And why do we say deformations are small? So that we can consider the equilibrium of body in the undeformed state. The reason is so that we can consider the equilibrium of the body in undeformed state. Otherwise, if it deflects so much, if it deforms so much under the action of the load, geometry itself changes. So I will have to consider deformed condition for considering equilibrium of forces. Now here, because geometry changes very slightly, so I say, okay, let my beam be in the original shape, and I will consider all forces in the original condition. So that is, so first condition is all deformations are small, so that we can consider the equilibrium of forces in the undeformed state. This is a standard general assumption which is made in all the theories that you will be studying. Second, so one is deformations. Two, coming to beam. Beam is slender. If you don't consider slender, then whatever we have discussed is not true. We cannot make assumption like that. Slender means that is h by L is small compared to unity. That is the meaning of slenderness. Third, and that is very important, transverse cross sections are transverse planes before deformation, and after deformation they remain plane, and not only remain plane but also normal to the centroidal neutral axis or normal to the centroidal neutral plane. So, transverse cross section what do you mean by transverse cross section? When I ask in the Viva OC, very don't try to say that this is a story. This is a fact. When we ask some of these questions to people, yes, where is the transverse cross section? They start showing this is the beam, so this is the transverse. This is the longitudinal horizontal cross section. We are talking of transverse means this cross section. This is the beam. Cross section is which is the plane? It is y and z plane. Cross section that is lying in yz plane. That is transverse cross section. What is the x axis? Longitudinal. So what is the longitudinal plane? XY plane is the longitudinal plane. Okay, XY plane is the longitudinal plane. Okay. So transverse cross sections remain plane and normal to neutral axis during deformation. What is the meaning of this? Transverse cross sections of the beam remain plane and normal to the neutral axis. Originally they are normal because this is my neutral axis, this is my transverse cross section. Is it clear or not? This is my palm is, and this is x axis. So this is a transverse. After it bends means it becomes like this. So x axis also like this, this 90 degree is always maintained. This 90 degree is always maintained. Transverse cross sections remain plane, so this remain plane and normal to the neutral axis during deformation. In some books it is written before and after deformation. Before anyway there is no load. Before it is like this, there is no load. The moment load is applied, it becomes something like this. But what about supposing you apply a load continuously, slowly? The same state remains during also. So it is a during deformation. So it is not only before, during and after also. So that is why I have written here during deformation. So just write, don't write only before and after, during deformation. What is the consequence of this? One is your strains vary linearly because this is their cross section. So this is one is, not only that, what about what is the displacement in x direction by the way? Which displacement component is involved in the x direction? Supposing I want to find out what is the displacement of point P at a distance z from the neutral axis. What kind of displacement? Yes, it gets displaced. It is u displacement. U is also changing with respect to z. My u displacement, u is along x axis. U is changing with, u is a function of z now. So u is changing, so u also is varying linearly. My plane cross sections remain plane, means it becomes like this. So my first u, so consequence of this is 3. What is the consequence of 3? You must explain. One is longitudinal displacements vary linearly through the depth. Longitudinal displacements u varies linearly through the depth. Two, I mean this becomes, cross section becomes like this. My u displacement, all these are my u displacement. This is positive, then this is negative. This comes on this side. So this cross section becomes like this. From vertical, it has become inclined, or it has become like this. From vertical, it may also become like this. So all my displacements are like this. 2. This is only about plane sections remaining plane. What about normal? Plane sections remain plane and normal to the neutral axis. That means this axis, this is x and this is z. If you take your element xz like this angle is always maintained 90 at every instant of time. These are all in a small deflection. So although they are inclined differently, but they are all xz I am showing. So it is x here. So this element always remains a 90 degree. Since this element remains 90 degree, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? Which strain is responsible for keeping this 90 degree? Xz. Is it not? Xz, no? Gamma xz, gamma x direction and z direction, so 90 degrees. So this is 0. So second consequence is gamma xz is 0. Plane sections remain plane, and now mostly when we ask people, then they simply say plane sections remain plane. When which plane section? Many people say this horizontal plane section. This plane section, this is the plane, this does not remain plane, it bends. This section remains bent. No, it is this section. It is this cross section. So, this is becoming like this. This is becoming like this. So, this remains plane always, transverse cross section. Okay, so this is the consequence. Next, yes, please. I am not that I am, I will be very happy if I don't have to teach, and relax. Why do I have to? Okay. Now, next assumption. Fourth. Fourth assumption, what did we do? Anything? Anything? Yes, I think you have forgotten. What did we? Huh? We have assumed that this is small compared to at one stage we did it. Huh? This stress component is small. Transverse normal stress is a small component. So, this also we have made assumption. There is one assumption that on which this Euler-Bernoulli beam theory is based, when we will go further, and that I would like to. So, this is also an assumption. What happens to the depth of the beam? After all, it bends. A beam originally which is straight like this, it bends. What happens to the thickness? What happens to this h? This, supposing, should I say h dash? Original h becomes h dash. In general, yes. Why it should not become? It need not remain. There are, there should be in this direction. The thickness need not. But then we assume here that thickness does not change. There is a, that this I have not explained. So, we will assume that h is equal to h dash. That means the thickness, the depth beam does not change during deformation. Because this is also an assumption, this I have not explained. I will explain it later when time comes. But this you keep it. This is one of the assumptions that we have to make while deriving the beam theory properly. So, this thickness, and what is the consequence of this, by the way? What is the meaning of this? Which is responsible for keeping the depth same? That means, if I take 2 points in the depth direction here, this after deformation, this one, if you want h dash to remain same as h, then the distance between these 2 points should not change. What is it that keeps that? What is that? Sigma z. Sigma z, we have already made some assumption, here just now. No. See, change in length between 2 points. What is it? What is the quantity that is involved? Change in length per unit length. Strain. This is. We assume that this one is 0. Epsilon z is 0. epsilon z is 0. Okay? Now, then you will say that sigma z is also you are assuming 0. This also can both be 0. No, in theory it cannot, but whenever we make assumptions, there is always some conflict. So, that is why I have writing here this is small. I am not saying it equal to 0, but this one I am saying equal to 0. Okay, so we will change. So, these are the 5 assumptions on which your Euler-Bernoulli beam theory is based. Please remember this all the time. These are the basic assumptions on which we have derived. Now, just quickly I will give you an example and you can do it at home. I have a beam. Now, you have got a concept of neutral plane and neutral axis. So, and beam, the entire depth of the beam is now smeared, and now we are going to study only the deformation of the neutral axis. Once we understand the deformation of the neutral axis, we have got a formula which tells me what is the strain through the thickness and what is the stress through the thickness. So, we have reduced the problem from 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional and 2-dimensional to 1-dimensional. Now, it is only a function of x. So, now beam etc., they will all be shown only by a center line or centroidal line, and that means it is the neutral axis. The depth of the beam need not be shown. We are studying the behavior only of the neutral plane, because once we study the behavior of this neutral plane under the action of forces, we will be able to find out the stresses through the thickness by the formula that are, because we have got a formula sigma x equal to mz by I. If I know the moment of inertia of the cross section looks like this is h, this is b. If I know this, if I know the distance from the neutral axis, this is z, so I can find out this stress. So, given the moment is applied to the cross section, moment is one quantity and that is applied at the neutral plane. Everything is applied at the neutral plane. Okay. So, this is now we are showing only the neutral axis. Now, if this beam, let us say, is subjected to a central concentrated force P, please find out what is the maximum stress this beam is subjected to. Please find out. So, first of all, what will be the bending free body diagram? This will be the free body diagram. This will be P by 2, P by 2, this will be 0. And what will be the bending moment diagram? Bending moment diagram will be P by 2 into L by 2, PL by 4, negative. Positive, negative, what is the meaning of that? Nothing like negative or positive. I am drawing the bending moment diagram on the tension side. Is it clear? I am drawing the bending moment diagram. See, this bends like this. Bending moment diagram, how? So, this is positive or negative? Tell me quickly. At any cross section, what is the bending moment diagram? At this point, what is the bending moment diagram? Yes, it is positive or negative. This bending moment diagram here, this is my bending moment positive. Now, if I take moment about this point P into x, P by 2 into x, that is giving, so this moment must be negative. Is it okay? So, this is a negative. I have drawn like this. And this value is PL by 4. So, please find out what is the maximum bending stress this beam is subjected to. And it occurs at which cross section. Now, here it is very simple, because maximum bending moment diagram, maximum bending moment is very, but there will be situation where you will have to find out where is the maximum bending moment, and then you will have to decide. So, there will be number of problems that will come on this, and we will be doing, and okay, let us stop today.